It's time for the Roots and Roots Show with your host, Greg Rashid, bringing you history and music from the Black American diaspora. Greg and his guests' goal is to root the show's information in your psyche, providing you the roots to expand knowledge within your community. Now here's your host, Greg Rashid.
Swati Cup to everyone out there, which means hello and Thai if you're new to the program. This is Greg Rashid with another edition of the Root and Root Show. Heard from many people at their convenience at various times during their day, during the night, whenever. But a lot of folks listen every Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Mountain Time on KUHSdenver.com, created by the one and only, the king of martial arts himself, Henry Archuleta. And I want to say hi to all of my friends in the Colorado region. I keep saying I'm going to be back there. I'm going to be back there. Believe me, I'm going to come back there to visit. But anyway, we're going to have another great show as we always do. And for some of you who are new to the program, yes, I am in Bangkok, Thailand. And you may hear animals in the background, people selling fruit, a little bit of everything. But people like the ambiance sounds that come out of this show from Bangkok, Thailand. But as I said, we're going to have another great show. So we're honoring today the anniversary of a person who died very young, legendary person, philosopher, martial artist, supreme actor, director, just a, author of many books. And what I'm talking about is the great Bruce Lee, who passed at the young age of 32 and on July 20th, 1973. It's hard to believe, 50 years, man. Something. But we're going to talk about Bruce today, his relationship to the Black community, and who the we is, myself and my buddy Bajan Bain, who wrote an excellent article about Bruce Lee and his relationship to the Black community. And we're going to get into that interview right now on the Root and Root Show. All right, we're back with the show here, and I am just so honored to have as my guest, as always, my good buddy, my friend, renowned writer, author, and also world traveler. And he wrote an excellent, just a superb article about a legend who we are celebrating his anniversary of his death 50 years ago. He died on July 20th, 1973 at just a baby age, 32. You know who I'm talking about is Bruce Lee, and I have on the program today my buddy Bajan Bain. How you doing, Bajan?
I'm doing great. I really appreciate you having me on again. I think it's the first time that I've been on the air since my second visit to Thailand.
Right.
So thank you for covering this topic, and I really look forward into unpacking the legacy of Bruce Lee.
Yeah, it's something that, there are a lot of folks don't understand what Bruce Lee meant to the Black community. And you wrote a superb article, and I want to thank you for putting me in the article, but you wrote a superb article that I think is on the, you can get it online anywhere, but where should people look for the article and talk about what made you write this article and what do you hope to accomplish by writing the article? What do you want folks, especially new people that really don't know Bruce's history in relation to the Black community? What do you hope to get out of that?
Well, people can find it online via the publication that used to be called The Undefeated, which is an ESPN outlet. It's now called Andscape, like landscape without the L at the beginning. And so if they Google Andscape or ESPN and type in Bruce Lee anniversary of death or Bruce Lee Bajan Bain, Bayne, they'll see a 50th anniversary tribute article that I wrote.
Amazing.
And what I hope to accomplish, and I hope readers take away, is that there's a two-way street involving Bruce Lee's legacy, in that he was influenced by Black fighting styles, and his career and his charisma and the unique aura that he had on screen influenced some Black people to get interested in martial arts in the first place. So it's kind of a two-way thing.
And I'm one of those that, as a teenager, when I first saw Bruce Lee on the Green Hornet back in '66, I was just hypnotized. And everyone in my, junior high school, Bacchus Junior High in DC, all the guys and some of the girls, and most of the guys came back. It was on Friday night, came back to school Monday. That was the talk. Bruce Lee, who is, did you see that, bro? Did you see him? You see that guy? And what, how he was fighting? Because we were used to, being boys, we were used to seeing fighting, just basically boxing or fighting in movies and all that. And, a lot of us loved Muhammad Ali at the time. But when we saw Bruce, it's like, do you believe what he's doing? And he was doing in his little, in his little brief fights that he would have on TV, he was doing a little bit of a Ali shuffle before he'd kick somebody. And it's like, this guy's got style. It's a whole different thing. And as you say in your article, and you mentioned me in it about, I first learned about martial arts and karate and judo from old TV westerns when I was growing up as a kid. That there will always be on a rifleman, have gun will travel, you name it. At some point, they would have an episode where there would be some Asian that would come to a Western town. There'd always be someone from China, and they would always have these, the guys that had these pigtails. And the bullies in the towns would always pick on them, and eventually someone would cut the pigtail off and call them names and all that. And the next thing you know, the Asian would do the style of fighting that you would never see, and none of the bullies in these shows, knew what to do with it. And they usually were doing a form of karate, a form of judo, but they were doing stuff that was totally different. And it was awesome to see that. But when everyone saw Bruce Lee on the Green Hornet, it was like, what is this? And it was just this incredible. And to learn about him and to start reading about him, seeing him. And I unfortunately missed the opportunity to see him. A lot of my friends saw him at a place in DC, the DC Army. He came there during the auto show in '68.
So it did, June.
Yep. Gave a demonstration. For Jun Rhee, who was my karate teacher. I went to Jun Rhee Karate School. And I didn't get a black belt. I just got a gold belt, yellow belt. But the thing is that he brought him there, and it was something I really, and one of the few regrets I have in my life, that I never got a chance to see Bruce Lee in person in DC when he was there. And I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was free, or the cost was very minimal. It wasn't much.
Yeah, they even have that big car show every year.
Yeah.
He, from what I've heard and from what I understand, the really, really high kicks that he did on television, Jun taught him those, your teacher.
Yeah. The thing about it, Jun Rhee he taught Taekwondo. And Taekwondo was all about kicking. A lot of the martial arts, they incorporate hands, obviously, and all that, kicks too. But Jun was really, his whole thing was like, every form we learned, Chunji and all these forms, they basically involve kicking first. And that was the main thing. And to know that Bruce Lee went to him, and Bruce Lee went to his whole thing was like, as you say in the article, he went to so many folks to learn and create his whole style of fight. It wasn't just one certain style. He incorporated so many folks, including Muhammad Ali, And there is a scene, if listeners, if you've seen the movie Return of the Dragon, when Bruce Lee fights Chuck Norris in the Roman Colosseum, Bruce Lee gets up after being knocked down, and he starts doing Ali moves. He's dancing on his feet, and he starts like fighting just like Ali. And I think I read something back then that he said, "Yeah, I took that from Ali. I wanted to do that." But your article really gets into that, and talk a little more. Your experience as far as the first time you saw Bruce.
Well, I want to credit some of the accomplished Black martial artists and senseis and sipus I quoted in the piece, because they were able to articulate the fact that the black fighting style that Bruce Lee observed from the Moses Powells and the Alis and the Steve Sanders Muhammad helped bring martial arts up on its toes from being flat-footed and help people be a little bit more mobile and fluid and
Right.
and side to side, and not as robotic and predictable where the stuff wouldn't
Right.
work in the street. And Bruce was concerned with things that actually worked in the street because, as you know, he was picked on in Hong Kong because he was a child actor and picked on by bullies. So if he saw something in the dojo that he felt was a little too robotish, he didn't really like it, which is why he tried to learn from many, many different styles and people, because by him being an undersized person, he wanted to know what would work against a person who's 7 feet or 300 pounds or 250 or a conventional boxer or in the street or in a brawl, because to him, all that stuff that works in the dojo in the studio is moot if it's like you have to think, now my forearm should be going up the block this way. Now I should be doing it. It's not fluid and it's not street.
Right.
And so a few guys were able to convey that in my piece, especially about being up on your toes. And I first really noticed him when the series aired on ABC, which was around the Batman era and the Batman craze. And they had a cross episode where the Green Hornet and Kato came on Batman. So I was, I'm thinking as a little boy, because Batman is sort of like the conventional star, he's more like the NBA, he's
Right.
more like the NFL. Bruce and the Green Hornet, because they're always accused of crimes on their show when they come to the scene. The police always think they did it. They're sort of like the ABA or the AFL. I said, they're just going to go Batman and Robin, and it's still going to be Batman and Robin's show. But then a fight broke out, which I thought they're gonna fight, instead of him fighting like the Joker's henchman or the Riddler's henchman or Mr. Freeze's henchman, he's gonna fight another hero, for lack of a better term, and that hero's sidekick. So I said, oh, here we go, Robin. They're gonna wipe up the floor with Green Hornet and Kato because they're on their show. They're not on the Green Hornet. Well, lo and behold, my reaction when Bruce kicked Robin in the solar plexus and kicked him halfway across the room, I was like, they let him do that on his show? Even as a little kid, I know, you're not a writer or a screenwriter when you're young, but even as a young person, it's Batman's show.
Oh yeah.
Man, he kicked Robin. The next day we were out in the streets. Man, did you see Kato kick Robin? And we were reenacting it. So that was my experience. I had seen both shows in their own separate worlds. But for me to see that with this guy with this black cap, black mask, black uniform, smooth, moving, and then Robin was more like the establishment show, the Batman craze, bat this, bat that. Every store you went in had things that you could buy related to the show.
That's right.
And I was like, wait a minute now. And the Black Beauty was like more anti-hero-ish. But when he did that, I wasn't into Robin and them as much anymore. I was into Bruce.
Oh yeah.
Because he had style.
Oh yeah, he had style. And not only on on television, his movies, but in his life, the style. If you get an opportunity to look, go on YouTube or anywhere on the internet and look at him speaking, talking about philosophy. The man is he was just legendary.
He has a very, very distinct diction, very clipped tones, very philosophical, photogenic like Ali. He's a very unusual person, especially in that era, the way Asians were depicted on TV, not having a lot of agency, being houseboys and cooks. Westerns, they were cooks. On shows like Bachelor Father and Burke's Law, they were, this is a term, the antiquated term, because they were grown men, but they were houseboys.
Yeah.
And for him to be fighting these grown men on these television shows and whooping their behinds using the martial arts had to be for Chinese and Japanese and Korean Americans to be able to see somebody that didn't look silly and wasn't speaking broken English and wasn't number one son and all that kind of
Right.
craziness. It had to really be where they finally saw somebody of their ethnic group that was masculine and wasn't, running around subservient to somebody.
That is a whole, we equate it for the black community, but us seeing at that time, when we finally saw someone like Jim Brown, for instance, Fred Williamson, Richard Roundtree, being
Right.
heroes in movies, and that being,
Mm-hmm.
second in command, the help,
Mm-hmm.
actually
Mm-hmm.
battling folks. I mean, it's the
Mm-hmm.
same experience. It was just incredible to see, and I'm sure in the Asian community to see Bruce. And people still talk about that because Bruce is beyond just this martial arts actor. I mean, he is something. You said it, Bajan. I mean, it's like Ali, beyond the sport, beyond
Mm-hmm.
that. These are people that are beyond what they set out to do. There's
Yeah,
something
very,
that,
very, very transcendent, and it had to be a heavy burden to be the only person on TV allowed to do that. It's like the transition between Portier to Richard Roundtree, Fred Williamson, Jimmy Brown. Okay, Portier was allowed to talk back to people. He backslapped that man in '67,
right?
but he wasn't an action figure though.
No,
These people were fighting people the whole film in blaxploitation. They were fighting the dope people. They were fighting They were private eyes. They were having women. Sydney was more like acceptable and cleaned up and clean
right,
cut. Although he did have a fight scene, of course, and in the heat of the night and things like that. And he did backslap that man, and he even had a fight scene in To Serve with Love. But that wasn't bravado. Wasn't his whole
no, no, no.
branding or his image. As a matter of fact, it was to the other extreme because he had to feel white people had to feel comfortable and
Right.
safe with the people that Sydney played. So the Bruce element of being this basically defending yourself kind of a person was for all people of color revolutionary because we hadn't seen, this was before Shaft, so we
That's
hadn't
right.
seen anybody
I've seen
white
that.
do what Sean Connery and Chuck Connors and John Wayne were allowed to do. Everybody that was doing what Robert Conrad and Sean Connery and John Wayne were allowed to do on screen, or James Coburn was allowed to do on screen, or Dean Martin as Matt Helm, was white. Even Anne
Yeah.
Francis on Honey West, she's still white.
Right.
Now we're getting a person that's not white, and they're making these quotes, and they're philosophical, and they got this smooth uniform where everything's black. And black people identify with that because it's like we're the anti-hero too in this
Yeah.
culture.
We looked at him like, and that's a brother there. That's a brother. Bruce Lee is a brother. I mean, he had it, he had it down, just the style and everything. And the funny
Very
thing is,
smooth.
yeah, and the funny thing is, being over here in Thailand, I didn't know this to what 3 years ago. I'm sitting looking at because I look at Bruce a lot. I got a lot of his movies and all, and I was looking at the movie Fist of Fury, which is known as Big Boss everywhere else in the world, but in America it's called Fist of Fury. And my wife sees me looking at it. She says, they made that movie in Thailand. I said, what? And then I look real carefully and I look at the people around Bruce and I can tell they're Thai. And I went online immediately and found that they made it in this province in Thailand. And it's something that I think you and I will do when you get back here. We'll make a pilgrimage to that area.
Yes.
Yeah, because a lot of people do that. And I think there's a statue of Bruce there. There's some tribute there. But yeah, he made this movie in Thailand. And he is still, I mean, as the fact that we're speaking about him, that everywhere in the world, he is revered. I think there's
He's probably one of the most famous or recognizable people of the 20th century.
I think so. And the fact that he's still recognized, 50 years later after his untimely death, and people everywhere talk about him. I saw a
Speaking of that, what were you doing when you heard that he died?
well, the weird thing is that I was going. I was in DC. I was, going to see Enter the Dragon that day, not knowing that he had died. And I remember getting off the bus, going to the town theater in DC, and someone mentioned that Bruce Lee had died. I said, Bruce Lee died. I heard, don't know it was on the radio, something I heard over radio going to the movie. And I'm going in there and saying, I'm stunned. The movie theater is packed. And it's like I'm looking at this movie, loving it, but I can't register that he's dead. I'm saying maybe this is a joke. And then to come out and hear it on the news later on, it's like, God, he actually, how did that? It took me a while to really it really hit me that he had died.
Yeah, he's so young, and he's like the embodiment of physical virility and physical health and physical stamina. So when you're walking around the street and somebody says Bruce Lee died, like, wait, Bruce Lee died of what?
Yeah. I mean, it was just so, it took, and finally they showed, some grainy footage from Hong Kong of him in the casket, of the open casket. And they talked about how, and it was still a mystery then, even a mystery. They finally figured out that, it was basically, he had, his brain is swollen. What, I can't say what is the exact term for it? But he had yeah.
Yeah, deep swelling. And he had a headache on the set and collapsed on the set before that.
Right, all of that.
So he took the meds, and supposedly they had a fatal reaction to the meds.
And it's just stunning to know that. But he lives on, in our hearts, and with us.
And of course, forever. He wasn't allowed to do the Carradine. He wasn't allowed to do the Carradine series.
Oh, I wanted to talk to yeah. That's one reason
that had to be heartbreaking because they promised him that.
Right. He for some of the listeners, they may not know this, that the movie, if you've ever seen Kung Fu, the TV series of David Carradine, Bruce Lee wrote that, and that was supposed to be him. But the big wigs in Hollywood on ABC back then said, America's not ready to see an Asian and as a lead character. And they put David Carradine in there, who had no martial art experience, who was white, who said the whole time when he would do interviews back then, they would ask him about his martial art experience, and he'd always say, "No, I'm a dancer. I'm just doing dance moves." And that's why it's so hard for me to look at that. I never could really get into that series, and it's kind of a shame.
When I was young, I didn't even know that that it was Bruce's conception. But when I was young, because I liked the martial arts and because it was one of the last few kind of like Westerns, and because it was on 3 TV networks, I used to try to kind of watch that show because people were looking at it. And it was boring. I didn't know the Bruce story about it was his idea. I couldn't get in. I couldn't watch Kung Fu. I would be waiting for the fight scenes and stuff, but the little philosophical stuff with the grass, and this has become like a cliche and become part of the lexicon, like grasshopper this and I couldn't. That show was boring to me.
And the sad thing
about the pace of the show, and the fact that he was, I can't quite put into words to those listeners that haven't seen it, or even those that have or have YouTubed it. But there was something about the tone or the pace that was like watching paint dry. Because I was used to westerns with a lot of. I was used to westerns with a lot of action.
And the show was on for an hour, and it was. And I remember taking the DVD out years later. Said, "Okay, I'm gonna give it a chance." I said, "I'm gonna try." And I tried to look at it, and like you're saying, Bajan, it's like, nah, I can't look. I can't because of Carradine, all of that. And the weird thing about that show, it had a lot of black actors. And when I've just read about some of the topics on the shows, they were talking about slavery, after slavery, because this is during after the Civil War. They're talking about Reconstruction, and there are a lot of black actors who appeared on this show, but it was just like you're saying, like paint
I
dry.
never would have been able to find out because I couldn't get through it long enough to keep myself awake. Because when I
Yeah,
was young, I like to see something happen. This is
yeah,
the O.J. Simpson era, Muhammad
that's
Ali,
right.
Kareem, Lou Brock, the whole. I'm
It was.
thinking it's going to be this martial art. I'm thinking, whoa,
That's what I thought
and
too.
remember, my template for the martial arts was Bruce.
Yeah,
So because Bruce was my template or my baseline, anything that was like, oh God, grasshopper this, philosophy that, I'm like, and if he had been doing it, it would have been thrilling.
oh yeah,
But because they whitewashed it, I was like, I can't. But I didn't know that they whitewashed it back then. I didn't find out about that till years later.
yeah.
That wasn't supposed to be the person who was cast as the lead. But it didn't do anything for me. People
No,
made fun of it.
they did.
All the variety shows and the Carol Burnett's and all the shows that have people doing impersonations and all the parody magazines like Mad Magazine and stuff. They made fun of it and they lampooned it and
Yeah,
about
and it
him talking
deserved
to
it.
the grasshopper. Yeah.
And I saw it.
Now it was done. It was that whole thing about having a older Chinese American or Japanese American or Chinese or Japanese mentor was done and handled much more sensitively or with better care in the Karate Kid. That was done a little bit better. We have a white kid and then the Pat Morita
And I
is
have a
teaching.
hard time with that one too. Frankly,
I hear you.
yeah,
I hear you.
it's like okay, you can't put an Asian in here or something. You got to do it this way. But that's a story in itself. We could do a show about Karate Kid, that whole thing. But Bruce's legacy, the fact that we're still talking about him now, that all over the world, not just in China and Hong Kong, but all over the world, the anniversary of his death was being honored. In San Francisco, there is a exhibit of Bruce at a museum there. And it's going to be a touring exhibit, which I hope will come over this way. But I have seen here, there was at a store here, but it's now closed. They had the statue of Bruce that was going for about $5,000. A little miniature statue. It was incredible. I really
Hmm.
wanted that thing, but the
What,
store
what
closed.
what type of store was it? Was it a collectible store
It was
or was it like
collectible. It's like a comic book collectible manga, a lot of manga, and they had that
gotcha?
thing in there. But the place closed up. It closed up, I think, just after the pandemic. It's like okay, no one was going in there, so they just closed it up. But yeah, Bruce is like,
With the
yeah,
popularity of Muay Thai in Thailand, how interested or popular are the other martial arts in Thailand, like as far as being taught in studios and people watching movies about other forms?
it's
From your perception of having
I
lived
was
there.
as far as Muay Thai. I mean, as you know, it's huge here. That's huge. Other forms are. It's funny you mention that because up the street from where I live, there's a where I go to my gym. There is a Taekwondo school there, and I have seen in other places in Chiang Mai, and in fact in Pattaya, other forms of art, martial arts that are here. It is like it's big, it's big over here, and the philosophy thing. And I've told my listeners this, but last year I had the experience of doing a 10-day meditation retreat. And it's something I've always wanted to do. One thing, and this is based on, I guess, Bruce and the Enter the Dragon. When I saw Jim Kelly in Enter the Dragon walking down the streets of Hong Kong, I said, I want to do that. And when I saw Bruce at the beginning of that movie giving his philosophy, and he was at I guess the Shaolin Temple. I said, I always want to go to something like that. And I was able to do that last year. at this retreat, which was like being at the Shaolin Temple, but it's all about
Hmm.
meditation. And that, that movie, that was that's how Bruce kind of inspired me. See, and there are other
Interesting.
reasons why I'm over here, but that was one of the things I wanted to do that. And when I got over here, when I went to Japan, the first time I was in Japan, I did a little walk in downtown Tokyo. Like I felt like I was Jim Kelly for a minute, and I crossed
Hmm.
the street like he did and entered the dragon, which which sounds silly, but it's like I actually did this. So it's like,
Hmm.
that was the inspiration I had, to get over here. One of the inspirations was that movie, Enter the Dragon, and learning about Bruce, learning all about him. And we can talk about Bruce all day and martial arts, and we will
Yeah.
do that on this show. But tell folks how, one, again, tell them about the article, title of the article and everything.
So the article is called Actor Bruce Lee's Connection to the Black Community 50 Years After His Death. And again, people can just Google Bruce Lee and my name, BIJANBAYNE, or they can go to ESPN's Anscape and scroll to last week, basically. Some people will be hearing this later or after the
Yeah,
fact. Ran on July 20th, and it's still up online, and it'll probably be up there for quite some time. And it's probably quoted in some other publications as well. But I wanted to shed light on the influence that he had on our community all around the country, not just Black DC, Black Oakland, Black LA, Black
yeah,
Chicago, but
everywhere.
universally. When I talk to people that are baby boomers, his swag, which they didn't have that term in 66 and 67, on that series really excited guys and affected them. But also in turn, because he studied under so many people and because his first student was Black and because he had dojos in sections of Oakland and sections of LA and in Seattle where he would encounter brothers, he picked up things from them too. So there's a very mutual, I guess that's the word we're
Right,
looking for. It was a mutual um, learning where he learned from us about our struggles and us being discriminated against. And then we learned from him, and he was close to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, even when
oh yeah,
Jabbar was an undergrad and he was Lou Alcindor. So there's this symbiotic relationship of this cultural exchange that you don't hear a lot when you hear about, and I don't want to get into any politics, but some Black Korean or Black Asian or Black corner store rifts in the
right.
Black community where there isn't much of a bond.
That's it. That's the whole thing. So I'm
I'll
just
just leave
happy.
it at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Check that article out. Check out just check that article out. It's just just great. And also check out Bijan's books that he has. I mean, the book on Elgin Baylor, the book, the youth book about Black heroes and heroines. I mean, there's so much that Bijan has out there. And we're just happy to have him on here as always. He's a part of the family here on the Root and Root Show. And he's going to be coming back here soon. And we're going to be checking out some Muay Thai together. But is there anything else you want to say, Bijan, before we conclude as far as how people can contact you and all?
Yeah, I am on Twitter at symbol Bijan Bain, the spelling of my name, and I look forward to uh, engaging with your listeners again, and definitely, hopefully, we will have some surprises in the
Yes.
works. Maybe not the next few months, but maybe in the coming months in relationship to Muay Thai and throwback boxing from back in the day and throwback music from back in the day. And I'll leave some of the other surprises so that the audience will have leave them wanting for more. But hopefully there'll be, because you and I have so many interests in common, some things where we'll be able to do some lives that people really enjoy.
Right. Definitely. Well, thank you, brother, for coming on today. I will be talking to you later on. Thanks so much. You take care.
I appreciate you having me on again.
Always enjoy talking to my buddy there, Bujan. Yeah, check out the article there and check out his books. So many great things he's doing. And looking forward to having him back in Thailand very, very soon. Well, we're going to continue our tribute with Bruce Lee. I'm going to do some music about Bruce Lee and about martial arts and kung fu, starting with the theme from Enter the Dragon. And this was done by Lalo Schifrin, and you'll hear Bruce doing his screams and all, his karate screams and all he used to do. So let's hear that right now, the theme from Enter the Dragon, the movie, on the Root and Root Show.
Out of broomsticks and bike chains, playing fight games. Nappy head little ninjas. Been a Bruce Lee fan long as I can remember. It was Enter the Dragon, Kung Fu Cinema. In the front living room, soaking every minute up. Go outside, copy what I saw. Try to break a brick with my hand, get the iron palm. Got my first uniform. My mama let me take karate. Picture me, white gi on my little body. Sensei drilled us like the army. When I woke up, I was sore the next morning. But you couldn't take the smile off my face. White belt on my waist, getting my first taste of the basics, just learning how to tie my belt right. Little did I know that this would grow into a way of life. I was just a young G watching Kung Fu movies on the color TV. Wake up early in the morning before anybody else just so I could see Bruce Lee. Wanted the yellow tracksuit with the black stripe down the side just like Bruce Lee. Nunchucks in the mirror, they dreaming that I could fight just like Bruce Lee. At 135 pound, 5'7", he was not a big guy, but still one of the biggest legends. Way of the Dragon, Chinese connection, the big boss, I had the whole collection. Fist of Fury, the game of death. Used to love to see the one Chuck Norris got whipped in the Coliseum. Fantasizing it was me, red Sharpie on my chest, 3 strikes tried to be him. Had to shuffle down Pat and the cat sounds. Man, it's fun to look back at my background. But about round 16, things changed, started picking up bad habits in the street game. Following my peers, getting drunk, smoking weed, finally added up all those years. When I found out I had gout in my left leg, swollen, infected, it changed my perspective. From the time that you breastfed till you lying on your deathbed, gotta keep the best edge. Sometime a good thing comes in an odd package. Every fork in the road is a rite of passage. Had to empty my cup, then I got past it. I decided I was too young for the casket, so I recommitted committed to the arts in my 20s. Back on the path Bruce Lee sparked in me. Cause I was just a young G watching Kung Fu movies on the color TV. Wake up early in the morning before anybody else just so I could see Bruce Lee. Wanted the yellow tracksuit with the black stripe down the side, just like Bruce Lee. Nunchucks in the middle, daydreaming that I could fight, just like Bruce Lee. Knuckle push-ups on hardwood floors, broke a board with my foot, got back my mojo. I was feeling like Bruce Leroy with the glow. Training every day, many different dojos. Eventually I got to study Jeet Kune Do. That's Bruce Lee's art for those that don't know. It's a martial art, but it's a whole lot more. It's not just kicking and punching, it's the approach. What I value most is the philosophy behind it. Only use what works and stay open-minded. Express yourself, respect truth where you find it. Can't be walking around out here blinded. We have to be willing to change so we could grow. Having no way is the way, stay in the flow. Accept no limit, reject the status quo. Life lessons I'ma take with me until I go. Cause yo, I was just a young G watching Kung Fu movies on the color TV. Wake up early in the morning before anybody else just so I could see Bruce Lee. Wanted the yellow tracksuit with the black stripe down the side, just like Bruce Lee. Nunchucks in the mirror, daydreaming that I could fight, just like Bruce Lee.
All right, that was Stickman from Dead Prez and his tribute to Bruce Lee. And before that, we did the theme music from Enter the Dragon, and that was by Lilo Schifrin, who also did the music for Mission Impossible. Anyways, we get to more music on Root and Root Show. We're going to do a little more country music, starting with, I think we'll do Curtis Mayfield, his song from the same, from 1974. And this is Kung Fu. So let's hear that on the Root and Root Show.
Days of comfort, days of night. Don't put yourself in solitude. Who can I trust with my life when people tend to be so rude? My mama buried in a ghetto, there with no mattress for my head. But no, she couldn't call me Jesus. I wasn't white enough, she said. And then she made me your kung fu. Don't have to explain it all. Kung fu, don't know how you take it, yeah. Kung fu, I'm just trying to make it down. Kung fu. I've got some babies and some sisters. My brother worked for Uncle Sam. It's just a shame, ain't it, mister? We being brothers of the damned. The love and brings about a difference. You are my love, I do believe. Shall we join hands for tomorrow? Don't carry nothing up your sleeve. Keep your head high. Kung fu, I will till I die. Yeah. Kung fu, don't be too intense. No. Kung fu, keep your common sense. Yeah. Kung fu. There's no secret part of you. You bet your life when you think wicked. Someone is thinking wicked too. Keep your head high. Kung Fu, I will till it die. Yeah, Kung Fu, don't be too intense. No, Kung Fu, keep your common sense. Yeah, Kung Fu. Our days have come, our days of night. Don't put yourself in solitude. Who can I trust in my life when people tend to be so rude? My mama born me in a ghetto. There was no mattress for my head. But no, she couldn't name it Jesus. I wasn't white enough, she said. And then she made me young. Kung Fu, don't have to explain it, no. Kung Fu, don't know how you take me down. Kung Fu, I'm just trying to make it now. Kung Fu, Kung Fu, yeah, Kung Fu.
Oh, dance the kung fu. You just dance the kung fu. Yeah, dance the kung fu. This is all you do now. You just dance the kung fu. You sway to your left, then you sway to your right. This new dance, people, is pure dynamite. Every step is poetry in motion. Let the rhythm take your devotion. So when you feel like you wanna fight, people listen to me or don't get uptight. This is all you do. Oh, dance the kung fu. I tell you what to do, dance the kung fu. Y'all, dance the kung fu. That's all I do, dance the kung fu. You put your hand to the hand, then you make a little stand. You chop and you dip, keep your back up stiff. Moving with the grace of a butterfly. Take yourself away on a natural high. If you feel like you wanna fight, listen to me, people, don't get uptight. This is all you do. Oh, dance the kung fu. This is what you do, dance the kung fu. Don't fight, you just dance the kung fu. I tell you what to do, dance the kung fu. Come on, move around. Let me see what you're putting down. Step in line, come feel the groove. Do it fine.
your thoughts when facing an opponent?
There is no opponent,
And why is that?
because the word I does not exist.
So, continue.
A good fight should be like a small play, but played seriously. A good martial artist does not become tense, but ready. Not thinking, yet not dreaming. Ready for whatever may come. When the opponent expands, I contract. When he contracts, I expand. And when there is an opportunity, I do not hit. It hits all by itself.
The words of the great Bruce Lee there, and that was from Enter the Dragon. And before that, did the music of Wang Tang Clan, and that was The Mystery of Chess Boxing. And there are a number of chess boxing kung fu movies I love, but that's another story there. And before that, we did Carl Douglas, Dance the Kung Fu. See, everyone plays kung fu fighting, but I did the other one, which I actually like better. His second song, Dance the Kung Fu. And we started to set off with the one and only Curtis Mayfield in Kung Fu. And that's from the CD Sweet Exodus. And I hope you enjoyed that on the Root Show. And we're getting ready. Oh man, we're getting ready to get out of here now. We're having so much fun today, dedicating this show to the great Bruce Lee, honoring his memory. And I want to thank Bijan Bain for coming on again. He'll be on many times, talking about his article and just talking about Bruce Lee in general and martial arts and all. But we're going to get ready to get out of here right now. This is Greg Rashid. Go in love and go in peace, and help someone along the way. And always remember, when you get up in the morning, look in the mirror and just say that you love yourself. Because you can't do anything if you don't love yourself. You can't love anyone unless you love yourself. And if you're blind, just when you wake up, just say that you love yourself. Touch your heart, and you'll feel just great. You'll just feel just wonderful all the day, and you'll be able to help folks that you meet. And even if just give them a smile, just a kind word. That goes a long way, because we're all in this together. No matter what people says, the bottom line is we're all here together. So work to make your province, the community, wherever you are in this world, just a better place. But again, this is Greg Rashid. Go in love and go in peace. And you can reach me online at Facebook at Gregory Rashid, Rasheed. But again, Greg Rashid, go in love and go in peace. We'll see you next time on the Root and Root Show. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in. See you next time. And remember, spread the knowledge, share the power.